Hello and welcome back. In this video, let's continue building our home component.
Hello guys, so this is where we left off our application in the last video, and in this video we'll take a look at how we can build our home component. So for layouting our home component, we'll be using the grid system from the Bootstrap. Let's check out what is that. So you can go on the documentation page for the Bootstrap, and here you will see a section called layout, and inside that is our grid layout. So using this grid layout, we can position our elements on the page, and also we can design the layout for our page. So let's take a look at how this works. So let's open up our home component in our application, and to create a grid we need to have a div with the class of container, and inside a container class we can create our rows and columns which will form our grid. So to create a row class, we need to give a class of row to a div, and we can have multiple rows. So let's create 2 rows, and inside the row class we can have our columns. So to define a column, we use a class called col, and we can have multiple columns as well. So in the first row, let's create 3 columns. So this will divide up our horizontal space into 3 separate columns, and let's put in some content over here, and inside the second row we'll create 2 columns. And also let's give some background colors. These are the built-in color classes from Bootstrap. So let's save this and let's take a look at our application. Alright, you can see that the first row, the width is divided into 3 equal parts because we have 3 columns, and in the second row we have only 2. And this extra space over here is because of the container class that will have a fixed width at different screen breakpoints. If you want your content to stretch from end to end, you can make use of the class called container fluid. So if you change this container class to container fluid, you can make use of the full width of your screen right here. And you can also give numbers to these columns. So given the class as col, we'll divide the available width into equal parts. But you can also specify numbers like from 1 to 12, because the maximum columns inside a row is limited to 12, and whatever number you give should add up to 12. For example, if I give a col 2 for the first column, and I'll give a col 4 for the second column, and that makes up 6, so I'll give a col 6 for the third column. Let's save this. So here the first column will take a width of 2 columns, and the second division will take a width of 4 columns, and the third will take the width of the 6 columns. And we can also have only 1 column. For example, let's remove the second column from the second row and let's save it. So this is taking the entire width over here because we have defined it as col. Now if I want to be of half of the width, I can give it a col 6. You can also position this specific column. For example, let's say I want to position it to the center of the screen, so I can make use of the justify classes onto the row. So to justify the content to center, we can make use of a class called justify content center. So this will center our column 6 column division to the middle, and the remaining parts gets split between the right and the left sides. Okay, to know more, you can actually visit the documentation for grid layout on the Bootstrap. So with this knowledge of grid, let's start making our own layout for the home component. Alright, so we'll stick to using the container, and if you check out our application page, So we need some text on the left hand side and we need an image on the right hand side. So this is a perfect example to use the grid layout from Bootstrap. Now for these we'll need the images, and I've already downloaded the images and I'll post the links for the images in the description. You can go ahead and download it. Now I'll show you how you can add those images. So open up your assets folder inside the source in the file explorer. Now I have those images on my desktop, so I'll copy these images from the desktop and I'll paste it inside my assets directory. You can close this folder. Now if you look into your Visual Studio Code, those files have been added inside the assets folder. Alright, so I'll create a row and then let's give a column 7 for our text division, and we'll create a column 5 to add the image. So inside this column I'll create a section and I'll write in my text, and let's give this class of display 4, actually display 2. So this will make the text font size larger, and let's create an h3 for our subheading, and we'll actually go ahead and copy the text from here. And let's save this and see this in our page. Okay, so this is what we want. We'll add a little bit of margin over here, so you can do that with the margin top class. So I'll give this h3 a class of margin top 3 and let's save this. Alright, now let's add our image here. So for that I'll go into the second div with the call 5, and inside that I'll create a section, and inside that we'll have our image. The source would be our assets folder and the image file. To make this image responsive, we'll make use of a class called img fluid. Let's save this. So there is our image. So now we'll create this button over here. So we need to put it in the first div. So in call 7 below the h3 I'll create a link, and we can give this a class of btn to make it as a button, and we'll give it a padding horizontal of 5, and let's give margin top of 5 as well, and let's give it a shape. Okay, here is our button. We haven't given any background color, so that we'll do next. Let's put our content over here, and now we'll add some CSS classes to make this button appear as we want it. You can also add your own custom class, but I've actually overwritten the built-in Bootstrap class called btn, so that will override the properties that we define inside our styles. So I've given it a background color and the text color. The letter spacing I've set it to 1 pixels. The text transform uppercase will convert our text to uppercase, and I've given it a font weight of 600. So let's save this and take a look. Okay, so our button is also in place. This looks a lot familiar to this one. Now we'll add our logo image on the top. So we need that division to be on top of this division. So we'll create a row on top of the existing row inside the container class, and inside this we'll have our image. Source will be assets and the logo or image, and we'll also add a class called image fluid, and let's give it a width of 150. So let's save this and check it out. Okay, so our image is at the left by default, so we can use the justify class to center it. So I'll use a justify content center to our row class, and let's save this. So we have our logo image in the center. Now let's go ahead and build our convert card over here. So to create a card, we can use the component called card, which is provided by the Bootstrap. Here I'll define a new row class. So inside that we define a column 8. So that's the maximum width we want to have for our card. And inside this column I'll create a div with the class card, and inside that we need our text convert, so we'll put it in a section. Let's say convert, and we'll give it a class of display 4 to increase the font size and the font weight set to 400. Let's save it. Okay, so this is how our card is looking right now. So we need to center this card, and let's give it some margin, and a margin of 5. Let's give it an M5. And to center this text we can also use the class called text center. So this will center all the text within our section. So let's save this. And for our card, let's also give a padding of 4, and our card itself has to be in the center. So let's give a justify content center to our row, and let's also give some shadow. So shadow LG will create a large shadow. So you can use this. These are the sizing classes from Bootstrap. So SM is for small, MD is for medium, and LG is for large. So let's save this. Okay, so we pretty much have our card set up. Actually, we can go ahead and change our column to 10 instead of 8. So give it a little more width. Alright. So now we need to add the custom select over here for the drop down, and this will be an input group for the input group component from Bootstrap. So let's go to the Bootstrap and search for custom select. Okay, so this is what we want to have. So that is right over here, the select component. We'll copy this from here and paste it inside our card. Now again we need to split the width into 2 equal parts, so we can actually nest our columns. So inside this column 10 we can define a row which will give us a set of 12 new columns, which we can use to split the width into 2. So I'll define a column 6, and let's paste our custom select over here. Use Alt Shift F to reformat, and we actually need 2 of these, so let's go ahead and paste one more. And also we'll use a style the size class of large for this, so you can do custom select LG for these both. So let's go ahead and save it. So there we have our custom selects, and we'll of course give these some margin. But before that, let's add in our input groups. So this is what we want, something like this. We'll replace this with our currency symbol. So let's go ahead and copy this input group division from here, and let's paste it inside another div with a class called 6, and use Alt Shift F to reformat, and we need to paste 2 of these. And to this also we'll add a class of input group LG. And so here you can see that we have a margin button of 3. Let's go ahead and add it to our custom selects as well. Okay, let's check out. So we'll add the margin to our text section. Let's say margin bottom of 5, and actually we can go ahead and change this padding to 5 as well, so that we have little more padding inside the card. Okay. Thing is to create a placeholder for this section over here. So I'll just copy paste some code. Inside our row, inside the card, we can create another column which will spread the entire width of the card, let's say called 12, and I've given it a padding vertical of 3. So inside that we have a section class for our muted text, which is this right here. So I've added a class of text muted and a placeholder text over here. In the next section we have a class of text highlighted, which will be used for styling it with our CSS, and the third section by default text, that is for the date. Let's save it and let's check it out. Alright, so I've added some CSS classes for our image fluid. I have given it a maximum height of 350 pixels and a border radius of 15, and similarly for our card I've given a border radius of 15 pixels and I've set the alpha value to 0.9. And for the text muted, I have set the font size to use 1.5 ems and the font weight have set it to 400. For the text highlighted, we need the font size to be a little larger, so that will be 3 times. So it is 3 ems and the font weight is also 400. So let's save this and check this out. So you can see we have our styling in place, and for the logic we'll continue to build this in our next video when we create a service for fetching the currency values, and we'll replace it with the data over here with using the string interpolation. And also the last thing is to add some animations to this button. So here when we hover over the button, we are increasing the scale of our button over here, so that can be done with the CSS class. Let's add in that also. I've added a class for button hover. So on hover we transform our button to scale to 1.1 and we'll add a transition of 0.3 seconds. So let's save it and check this out. So now when we hover over our button, it will scale up to 1.1 and we have a transition of 3 seconds. To add some more margin for our card over here, so let's add a padding for our row as well. So let's give it a padding vertical of 5. Let's save this. So now it looks a little better. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you like this content, please leave a thumbs up and share this video, and also subscribe to the channel, and let me know any suggestions or questions you have in the comment box below, and I'll see you next time.